Hello again, YouTube. So, this week's plan is to hopefully put the suspension on the Corolla, the front suspension. So, you can see there's already some new parts sitting on the table and everything. The control arms have poly bushings in them already. I opted to not replace these ones, partly because I'm cheap, partly because they're still in good shape, and partly because I originally thought I had poly bushings to put in these inserts, but I was wrong. I don't. New sway bar bushings, and also new outer tie rod ends. There's new ball joints already on the knuckle. But before we dive into all that, I need to check something else because it could completely derail the entire video. I was going to point it out last video and then I didn't. So, as you can see, the space I have here, I'm already very aware I'm going to have to put the fans on the front of the radiator instead of this side of the radiator like I'd really like. But I'm also having a bunch of clearance issues with the header on the rear. The biggest one being the fact that, if I can get down here quick, there is basically no room for an exhaust pipe. I can cut that, change that, and make that better, but it doesn't really fix the fact that the thing is hitting pretty much everywhere else. So I don't want to go messing with that just to figure out, when I go to drop the radiator in with the other header, that there's no room for the radiator. So I think before I go any farther dealing with this, I'm going to check some clearances on that. Because if this isn't going to work with the header, there's no point in fighting any longer with that header. Which means I am going to have to kind of, sort of, probably drop the engine back out, take that header off, and I have another front exhaust manifold like this one. I will end up putting it on the rear and hope to hell that solves all my clearance issues, because it should, because that is much, much shorter than even the factory rear manifold is. Let me see if I can find it. So here is the factory rear, and I realistically, because I already know this interferes with the transmission. Been there, done that, dealt with that problem already. But that being said, I also know that with these being the older ones, these are just regular steel. These are not cast. So I can cut it right here below the O2 sensor and put another flange on up here and make it work. I know I can do that. I done did it before. Or I have another front manifold over there on that one that I could also probably swap onto the back of the engine because the flanges are the same. And that would shoot it over, but that would nix any option ever in the future of putting power steering on the car. Which I kind of want to do, but I kind of don't care if I do. So, because it's a really light car anyway, and I don't plan on running like crazy wheels and tires on it, it's going to make it harder to steer. So, yeah, I got to figure out what route I'm going, or there's always the option of modifying that header, but I think the more I look at that situation, the less it's going to work. So, I need to figure out and make a decision on that before I make any progress on putting this on the car. Because, realistically, the moment all of this is on the car, that becomes harder to do. Because right now, I can undo 2, 3, 4. I can undo 4, 5 bolts, physically drop the engine a little bit, move it completely forward, pull the header off, put the exhaust manifold back on, move it back, put it all together. the moment the suspension's on, I'm physically trying to move the whole engine on its own, separate from the rest of the car. So right now is the time to do it and not do it later. I was really wanting to avoid it, but it is what it is. I actually completely avoided talking about it in the last video because I wanted to be excited that it was mounted. So that's why you're just now hearing about it. Unless you're on TikTok, then you heard about it while I found out. But yeah, so we're going to cross that bridge now. So, not going to lie, I'm a little surprised. There is more clearance there than I thought. But that also shows me at the same time, if I put the header on, which sticks out quite a bit farther than that stock manifold, it will be probably less than an inch away from the header, which guarantees me all sorts of heating and cooling issues. So I definitely don't think I want to go down that route because it doesn't look like it when you're looking at it. But this thing takes up a significant bit more room than the stock manifold does because it is significantly bigger piping. So, as much as I hate to say I got to ditch the headers, I think I really got to ditch the headers. But that just means they are setting around for something else, which I think I will enjoy them on better anyway. Which also means some things about this swap are going to simplify, and I'm not going to go as crazy with it as initially planned, because if I'm going to run the stock manifolds, I'm not going to go crazy with the intake or anything, so I'm probably going to end up taking this intake off of here, putting this back on my Celica as well, which I think overall will make me a bit more happier. Because this in stock, even in stock form, is significantly more power than this car had. Because I want to say this thing only had originally like 105 horse to the wheel, versus now it's got almost double that, and a significant amount more torque than it had as well. So, and a 5-speed transmission, which is way better than the 4-speed auto it had in it. So this in itself is going to make this thing feel like a monster compared to what it did. So, and yes, some of this is sad to come to the realization of. And yes, if I wanted to put more effort into it and more time into it, it would be very possible to make this work. But it also shows me it's not worth all of the effort I'm going to go through. So I think what I'm going to do, which I think is going to be the smarter move in the long run, I'm going to go ahead and ditch these, or ditch the headers, move the engine forward, and I'm going to go ahead and get this apart tonight so I can maybe run it by an exhaust shop in the morning and see if I can get them to go ahead and cut this off and move it up. Because that is something I didn't do on this. I didn't do it that way. So this actually has nowhere to unbolt the Y pipe from the rest of the exhaust. So yeah, that makes dealing with the exhaust on this thing a lot of fun, and not in a good way. But that also means once that's done, I can throw the rest of the exhaust on the car, and I can take it to an exhaust shop and have them make a Y pipe for it, because the Y pipe I was going to run, now I already know won't fit, because I tried test fitting it beforehand and went, oh no, this does not work anywhere like I hoped. And realistically, it's a shit design. It's designed after the way the factory one is, and like it would work for some things, but it definitely won't work for a lot. Yeah. So, it is what it is. So I might even, as bad as it might sound, I might even have them go ahead and cut off up to here, move this all the way up, and then move this down into the pipe. Just because that is going to give me the absolute most room to work with. So that might be what I do. And I'd like to have that done before I move into doing the suspension. So I went to a couple exhaust shops today, see about getting this modified. Basically got told by everyone, absolutely not. It's got to be some kind of like special alloy. We won't do it. Not a chance in hell. Nope. Cannot, will not, won't not. There's no way they did it with just regular welding wire and stuff. And I was like, that's weird, because on this car right here, it has this same manifold cut off all right about in this area. Then has just regular old mild steel pipe tubing welded to it that goes into the white pipe. Not, well, you know, maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe they had to do something special to get it done. I can't remember. I do remember swapping it in one of the other cars. I had to have, I swapped the manifold with a different one. And they said, no, that's a cast one. We can't do it the same way. Put the other one back on. All right. Did that. Took it back to that shop. They did the same thing. They welded mild steel to it again and dropped it right. Made the whole white pipe right back into it. So, add 2 of these. And a little bit of free time. So right there is the thing they said that they couldn't do. Done. And I didn't use anything fancy. I literally used a good old Harbor Freight, you know, Chicago Electric $90 welder. And I'm not saying it's good, but I mean, it ain't letting go. Yeah, it's not letting go. Now, so that tells me they're all full of shit, and I was right. Totally be done. Now, given you just want me to beat the crap out of that one, I do not trust this flange to be good anymore. So I'm not using this one. It was more or less proof of concept. There's a few things about even the way that one's done could be changed and be a little bit better. And on top of that, I don't trust my welding. Not in the sense that I don't trust it to hold. I don't trust it to seal. Like, I can booger weld that fucker together and get it to not come apart. But my God, she ugly. So, I did find a guy. After the fact, literally, I got done welding this and I called somebody. Left him a message, said, hey, heard you're a welding fabricator. Got kind of an odd job. If you think you can do it, call me back, let me know. I got done doing this, basically my proof of concept for me to go, all right, I guess I'm going to give it a go on this one, and hopefully it turns out well. And I told him what I needed done, and he's like, yeah, I can do that. Are you sure it'll weld? I was like, dude, I literally just finished welding one with a Harbor Freight welder. And I beat on it. I was like, I've swung at the thing on my vise as hard as I can, and I can't get it to crack. Like, it's holding together. I just don't trust my welds to be sealed. Or to not, well, at this point, have a warped flange. He's like, dude, if you can get it that good with a Harbor Freight welder, I can get it 100 times better with my TIG and everything. I was like, sweet. Sounds like a deal. So this is going to be going to his shop, getting done. And then he's coming back, bringing some stuff here with him, and he's going to make me a white pipe for the car. At least that's what we're talking about right now. That could change. If we can get that far and he does that well, boy, do I got some other stuff for him. I don't think this poor guy knows what he's going to get himself into. But either way, I now have a plan for it. So now the game plan is this video is I'm going to go ahead and not do any of this on film, but I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to drop the engine down to where I can slide it forward, get that other exhaust manifold off, put this one on for the time being, just to check clearances and see if whether or not, hopefully, fingers crossed, with everything down and out of the way, that I can get that manifold onto the engine, put the engine back in place, and then in turn be able to do that again without taking the engine off. Because I got a feeling I'll have a lot more room with this one than I currently do with the one that's on there. So we're probably going to find out. So I'm about halfway through this mess. I have the old one off. I haven't put that one on, but that's because I want to see, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that once the engine is up and in, that I can excuse me, that I can put the manifold on with the engine in the car. Because if I can do it with the engine in the car, that means I can take that one back off with it in the car and put that one on. That's the hope and that's the goal. Because if I can do that, then I can start throwing the rest of the suspension on. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect anything in terms of doing that manifold a little later. But if I get the engine up completely in place and then can't get that manifold on, that means I need to stop, realistically do no more until that manifold's done, so I can put that manifold on. Then put the entire engine back in the car. So yeah, it's kind of one of those where I'm kind of playing the long game with the situation, trying to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. But it's kind of what I need to do in order to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So, yeah. All right, enough yapping. Back to work. Haha, success. I can do that with the engine in the car. I can change that in and out. Hell yeah. So, for this next part, I got to kind of jump side to side a little bit. So I'm going to get these in. Then I'll actually record some of it to show you guys. Because realistically, the first thing I would have wanted to do was put the sway bar back on. But in order to put the sway bar back on, I have to be able to put the rear AR mount on. Well, in order to put the rear AR mount on, I need to have the front of the AR on, because it slides into the back mount and into here. There's no way to do both of those at the same time. This has to be done first. So realistically, the step I would have liked to have done toward the end, I've actually got to do right off the bat. Not super thrilled about that, but it is what it is. It's the way the car wants to go together, so it's the way I'm going to put it together. After I get the A-arms to this point, I'm going to try to set the camera up, get you guys down here so you guys can see what's going on too. We'll see how that goes. Well, I'm not going to lie. That didn't go as well as hoped. I definitely need to get a tap for it and tap out a couple of the holes. And I might possibly have a problem with a couple of them being, the welds might have broke off of them. So that's going to be fun to fix. We'll figure that out one way or another, though. Worst case scenario, I got to pull the spindles and everything to get to them. It shouldn't be too incredibly terrible. Then just weld the holes back shut. A little bummed by that, but it is what it is. The car is set outside for 2 years, something like that. So I should have known that I was going to need to chase most of these holes to get debris out of them, to get rust out of them, to get bolts to go back in. I don't know why I thought I was going to get away with not doing it. But here we are. It's a thing. I'll fix it later. For what I'm doing right now, it'll be fine. Because some of this isn't going back together permanently. I was hoping this was going to be part of it that was going back together permanently. But, you know, things happen. We can fix it. It's not that big a deal. Kind of a big deal. Not really. Alright, let's get the rest of this bolted together. That way I can get it down on all fours. And with that, for the first time in about 3 years, the Corolla is on all four wheels and tires, with most of a front suspension in it. So, yeah, this is awesome. I wish there would have been a little bit more to record with it, but this was really, at this point, was a last minute video because I didn't think I was going to be able to get any of what I did done. And I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to explain why I'm not exactly upset with the way some of the things went. Alright. Let me explain why, with as crazy as it sounds, with the things that you guys did see go wrong, like the bolt over there that wouldn't go in at all, the bolt over here, I'm pretty sure I broke the nut off inside of the frame rail on, and I might have done the same to one over there. I'm not exactly upset with that, because realistically, I knew I should have chased those holes before I ever tried putting a bolt in there. I should have did it before I even tried putting anything in the car parts-wise, to where I could have went in and out of it a few times, at least ran a wire wheel through them, done more than I did to make the situation work. And I didn't. Now I'm paying for it. It is what it is. I should have known better. Did it anyway. But that just means I'm going to order some taps. I'm going to get the bolts out, no matter how I got to go about it, even if I got to cut some holes. Get new nuts in place, tap out the rest of the holes that I didn't manage to break anything off in, and I'll get that all done, probably off camera, that way you guys ain't got to endure me doing it. And I also thought I had put these wheels on the car before. Apparently I didn't, because they do not clear these front calipers. So I've got a decision to make. I either have to run a different front wheel, or run different wheels all the way around, which I didn't want to do because I wanted to run these 15s. Or I need to run a very small spacer in the front. Or I need to do some clearancing on my caliper, because they turn, but they touch on every spoke. So I could theoretically get away with grinding them smooth and them clearing. I haven't quite decided yet. We're going to see what comes of it. Obviously, I've got a lot of other things to figure out. But now, being to this point, and I also didn't plan on having to do the header in this video. I also didn't plan on doing this all in, well, realistically, it's probably going to take me longer to edit this video than it did to make the video. I didn't plan on all this happening this quick. I planned on doing it over a couple days. I planned on starting on it 3 or 4 days ago, with me I had 5 days off. I planned on starting on it 4 days ago. I didn't get time. It was the wife's days off. It was the wife's day off. I had time, didn't make time, and that ended up us up here tonight where I have to stay up for 24 hours and need something to do. So, voila, here we are. All that being said, I learned some things. I am now much happier with this engine situation. I'm a little bummed about the headers, but we've got another candidate they can go on. So it's not wasted money, it's just wasted money for this project. And once we get those completely figured out, and I get some of the suspension stuff redone, we can start moving on to things like getting the fuel system done, getting the brakes working. We already know the radiator is going to clear and fit. I even think with very little modification, I can even use a stock fan if I want to, which kind of makes me happy because I was not there if I really wanted to run anything different. I can only run one of the two, but at the same time, it doesn't look like there's bolt holes on it for a second one, so maybe there wasn't a second one and I'm remembering wrong. And we can start stripping some of the parts we need off the other engine to put on here, like the lower intake with the fuel rails and everything, so we can get the fuel system done. We got the new coilovers to put in, even though those are not permanent, because I know everyone's going to watch the video and go, "You're going to put max speeding rods in it?" I don't plan on keeping them. I needed some cheap stuff to play with parts-wise back before I ever started the whole YouTube thing. And those were what I got for dirt cheap, obviously. And I bought 2 sets of coilovers to make 1 set for this car. Upside is now I don't need to buy 2 sets next time. I can reuse the lowers I already have that I know work with a set of BC Racing coilovers or a set of D2s, a set of K-Sports. I can reuse them with a good coilover now. So, But yeah, now at this point I'm just rambling. So yeah, sorry the video is not better. Sorry the video is not showing a little bit more. Sorry the video wasn't actually really a success. But I try to show you guys when I'm working on the stuff, how it goes. Not every time's going to be a success. Not every part's going to go on the right way. You just got to make do and make it work. That's kind of what we did tonight. Next time will be better. That's bolted on well. So yeah, until next time, remember guys, it's about the journey, not the destination. Get out and work on some stuff, have some fun. I'll see you next time. So nice to see it on the ground again, even if it's not right.